For joining us online. You can send your questions through Twitter by using the hashtag #AskCoachThompson here till 8 o'clock as we gear up for the Bulldog game Saturday at Western Carolina. We'll also recap this past weekend's game against Furman. Coach, good evening. How are you?
I'm doing well. I had a good practice today. I'm excited and ready to go.
Excellent. Well, happy Halloween to you.
You too.
And good to have you here and the fans with us in person as well as we gear up for another game on Saturday. First, of course, as always, before we look ahead to the Western Carolina game, let's look back at this past Saturday, the loss against Furman, 28-17, and another one of those close losses for the team where just, it came down to a couple of plays and couldn't pull out the victory this week. Yeah,
it was one of those games that played out just the way that we thought the game was going to play out. Had it all the way to the end there. We had the lead going into the fourth quarter, which we usually feel comfortable about. And I think the most frustrating part about the whole game was just not being able to finish it. We understood that we turned the ball over a couple times. We missed a couple tackles here and there. Had a couple plays on the football that we couldn't make on the defensive side. Let them off the 1 yard line late in the game. But other than that, there's plenty of opportunities to go ahead and win that game. Their effort was there, just a couple of execution errors, of course, that we make. And as I told them after the game, is we can't afford to make any execution errors. Well, we've got to be on point in everything that we do in all phases of the game. And it really shows, when you're young, when you're inexperienced, and you're not where you need to be, is if you turn over or you miss an assignment here or there, it's going to get you. And it got us, again, for about the fourth time this year.
Yeah, you mentioned being young and a little bit inexperienced. You had the close game. Looking at the last two home games, close game against ETSU where you had a chance to go on a winning drive and then instead the turnover that leads to a touchdown. Similar here on Saturday, had a chance for the winning drive. You have the fumble. Is it a case that the team is still trying to learn how to win those close games late?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. We won one close game. We had opportunities to win some others. And, it comes down to about 5 or 6 plays, as we always talk about. And unfortunately, we're not able to make those plays just yet. We're not able to make those plays at all right now. We're not getting stops. We're not getting stops on the defensive side. And then we're not scoring enough points. We were a little bit more I would say aggressive, in the past game this past weekend, and we knew we had to be. You take more chances, you get behind the sticks a little bit more there, but as you see, we can get some big plays out of it as well.
Jordan Black on that last drive, or the second to last drive when you were going for the score with the fumble and the strip sack, the scoop and score for Furman, and that's, I think, what stands out to a lot of people. But this is now a couple of weeks consecutively with multiple turnovers from the quarterback. What has stood out for you that has gone wrong leading to the turnovers?
Well, this week it was just a case of we had 2 play calls. We 2 play called when we went out there, so that way we were going to run. We ran a zone option to make sure that we can continue to get the first down, keep us into a second and short. Then we were going to get up on the line of scrimmage and run a play action off of it. We thought we had it open. He just held the ball a little bit too long, got his eyes off of number 1, his primary target, his primary receiver, which was Raleigh on the play, and unfortunately just held it just a half a second too long, and they were able to get to us. The Mike linebacker who comes free, not an offensive line issue. It's just kind of you got to get the ball out before he can get there. They're bringing at least 1 more. They're bringing 7. We're only protecting with 6 on that.
As we've discussed throughout the year, these close losses that can frustrate anybody. I mean, the fans, the players, obviously yourself. For the players, how have they responded this week in practice after the loss on Saturday?
They've responded fairly well. I felt a little bit of malaise over the team on Tuesday. Sunday was okay. Today was a lot better. I warned them against it. I cautioned them against it. I said we still need to make progress here. We still need to move forward. There's nothing wrong with your effort. It's really right now is you've got to get over this. Hey, we didn't win the football game. Move on. Don't let it beat you twice.
As a head coach, do you do things differently to get ready for a game when the team is, say, 5-2 compared to 2-5 to make sure that the guys are putting in the same effort and getting ready the same way?
I think when you're a younger ball club, you kind of do a little bit more interaction. You get a little bit more of the fastball against one another. And we've done that the last few weeks. There's a couple things it does. It develops your younger players. We do a little bit more work with the twos, a little bit more live interaction with the twos, guys that aren't getting a whole lot of work on Saturday. So we're trying to continue to develop those guys. But we're also trying to keep the ones and the upperclassmen engaged throughout practice. So we intermingle some live situations in there. And it only has to be about 5 or 6 plays, and that's all we really have done throughout the course of practice. In in small spurts to be able to keep it on edge. We wouldn't necessarily probably do that as much if we were an older, more experienced group, but when you're still learning how to play and learning how to practice, those are the things that you got to do.
Looking at the last 2 weeks, you go back 2 weeks ago to that win against VMI, and we were sitting here last week and you were talking about how it was kind of part of the game plan to be aggressive against them. And then this past week with Furman, kind of the contrary, and you even mentioned in your press conference that you kind of did the opposite, where you were punting it on fourth downs this week. Was that part of the decision going in, that you knew maybe you'd take your foot off the gas a little bit compared to the VMI game? We
were going to take our shots differently. We were going to take our shots on first and second down. We were going to throw the ball down the field. We were going to be more aggressive there, but it didn't necessitate us being aggressive on fourth down. What you were dealing with on the other side of the football was a younger, inexperienced offense in Furman, right? They were going to play. We had pretty much an indication that they were going to play a redshirt freshman or a true freshman at a quarterback, and they were going to keep it fairly vanilla. They weren't going to take too many risks that they didn't have to take. So when we played into it that way, we were going to make them drive the field, make them convert first downs, make them go 90, 80-something yards like that. And that's the way that I felt the game was going to play out. There's no need for us to take a risk and give them a short field with a young quarterback and a very good kicker. The one thing that they do have is a very good punter and a very good kicker. And if he can flip the field on you, then you're not going to do yourself any good either. So keep playing field position there. And I thought it was the game plan to work out, but, like a lot of things this year, just didn't quite go our way.
Jamar Lincoln got the start for them at the quarterback position, first career start, redshirt freshman, the quarterback you were alluding to. Did he surprise you with anything that he did out there, or is that exactly what you were expecting from the quarterback position?
It's about what I thought. When they needed to take some chances, they made some chances. He made a couple more throws. When it came down to it, they put it in the running back's hands, and they counted on their offensive line to kind of dig out yards and grind out yards, which is exactly what they did. But they didn't take any more chances than I thought they would. You're always going to take shots down the field and those kind of things. But other than that, and we played a fairly decent defensive football game up until the very end and up until a few plays here and there.
We were just talking about the aggressive nature, maybe not going forward on fourth down, but as you said, you were aggressive in other areas, and you guys came out throwing the football, which I think caught a lot of people off guard for this offense. What went into that decision to come out and put the ball in the air early?
Well, we had to back him off of us. We knew that. We know Coach Staggs well enough to know that, hey, he's going to try to get you behind the chains. So if you constantly stay above the chains, you'll be fine against him, because you'll get him playing a little bit flat and flat-footed, a little bit on his heels. But other than that, is you got to make sure that you're just you're getting 4 or 5. So we started with just a quick game stuff to Ryan, quick game stuff to Raleigh, and just trying to move the ball down the field. We got a couple of good first downs out of it. You make a guy miss. They're committing so many guys to the box. We were just trying to loosen them up early and make them know that, hey, we can throw the football. We're going to take these little dinks down the field if we can. And really, we had a good drive going on the first drive. Got a couple first downs. Got behind the chains on the third series of that scenario there, where we sprinted out and then we had to go for it. We went for it on third and fairly 6 or 7. We had an opportunity to convert that one. We just dropped the pass there and had to flip the field, which we did. And we kicked it down inside the 5-yard line.
The last 2 weeks, the pass game has seemed a lot more effective than the first few weeks. What has been your impressions of the passing game the last couple weeks?
Effective. Effective is when you get an opportunity to get it into Raleigh's hands out in the open space. I think he can runs fairly well. We put Ryan out there to try to improve it too. Get another bigger body out there. Ryan has got great hands. He's a baseball player, so he's got great hand-eye coordination. He caught a few really nice balls out there. He's big in the blocking game. What you notice, and even you notice in practice, is he's a bigger body, so smaller defensive backs have to go through him, and he can body out and box out his defenders.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. I had to double check the roster after he made his first catch. I didn't realize he'd be out there as a receiver. Well, the only other time we saw him this year, he was running the 2-point conversion. Is that something that you liked moving forward, keeping him at the receiver position?
I always knew, even when we recruited him, that there's certain things that he can do. Is if he's not going to play quarterback for you right now, I think we will move him back to quarterback here in the spring, because he's one of those gamer kind of an athletes. He gets out there and he's a competitor. What I saw on Saturday gave me enough to say that I think he can compete for the quarterback job this spring. But I did like it. I like the fact that he wants to just get out there and he's not happy just sitting back. We've got him on all special teams now. We've got him in a lot of different scenarios that are going to help us. From a skill set, what does he bring to that position that you maybe didn't have prior as a receiver? Well, there's not many guys out here with his skill set. He is 6'2". He's over 200 pounds. He is a good straight ahead runner. He runs powerful. He's very strong at that position. him. But what you don't know about him is he jumps about a 39-inch vertical. Right. And there's nobody on the team. Noah Dawkins may be able to jump him, but he's a 39-inch vertical. I've tested it twice myself.
Yeah, that's certainly impressive for McCarthy, who was playing receiver this past week and made a handful of very nice catches for the team. You know, a big storyline after the loss against Furman was that the defensive coordinator is now 6-0 against Citadel. What would you say to somebody who would bring that up?
Well, I think he does a very good job. There's no doubt about it. And we've had some pretty good game plans against him. You know, he forces you to execute all the way down the field. And I knew it, and that's why we did take some shots down the field, and we were able to convert on the 91-yarder. I think that when you know what you're doing and you keys in and you keyed into certain positions, it makes it very difficult for us to run. So we've got to go against all of our tendencies when you play him. You've got to do things just differently. But, I thought we moved the ball. I mean, we outgained them. There's no doubt about that. Really what we needed to do was just maybe go for a couple of those fourth downs in hindsight, maybe take a couple more shots down the field, or, maybe after a while start executing different plays. But everything was working fairly well against us. We weren't getting behind the chains too often unless we took a shot on first down, trying to get a big player, a big chunk.
One of those shots was the 91-yard touchdown pass to Raleigh Webb, who it was another instance where he was wide open. No one was within 20 yards of him. Came right after like an 81-yard punt. So they had all the momentum, an 81-yard punt, change field position, pins you guys back, and then you turn around and you have that 91-yard touchdown pass, getting the momentum right back. Just take us through that play and what resulted in now the longest completion in Citadel football history.
Well, it was, we knew we were going to have to battle a little bit of it, and no matter what, it was the next play call on my mind. And because what I had been seeing over and over is they were committing and they were over-committing to the run game. They were firing their corners in on us, which is going to only put about 3 guys in their pass protection on their side of the ball on the defensive secondary. So we found a way to stress the defensive secondary by getting four guys out into it. And it was just a matter of finding the one and making sure that we put Raleigh in that situation. And we weren't, to the credit. I thought Jordan had overthrown him. The wind probably just hung it up just enough to be able to Raleigh to run back underneath it, and then once he catches the ball in the open field, he's gone.
Yeah, hard to believe with how long football has been around at the Citadel. That was the longest completion ever, 91 yards for Black to Raleigh Webb in that for that touchdown on Saturday. Talking about the game this past Saturday for the Bulldogs against Furman with the head coach Brent Thompson. Here with you until 8 from the Marina Variety Store and Restaurant. Thank you to those who came out and joined us here on Halloween. Those listening at home or watching on YouTube, you can participate by sending in your questions on Twitter using the hashtag AskCoachThompson, and we'll get some of those in before we get off the air at 8 o'clock. Hopefully everyone's staying safe out there, trick-or-treating and having fun on Halloween. We thank you for joining us tonight here on The Coaches Show. We'll take our initial break, come back, continue to break down what we saw this past Saturday, and get ready for the upcoming game this Saturday at Western Carolina. It's The Coaches Show with the head coach Brent Thompson right here on 94.7 FM and 910 AM.
Hey Bulldog fans, I'm Danielle Hensley, and I'm back this week for your Bulldog Breakdown. It's that time of year. Basketball is back. Men's basketball will tip off their season Tuesday at Clemson University, starting at 7 p.m. Wrestling will also hit the mat for the first time this season on Sunday at the Hokie Open in Roanoke, Virginia. The Citadel football team set a new school record with Jordan Black completing a 91-yard pass to Raleigh Webb, now the longest pass play in school history. The Dogs were still unable to hold the Paladins as Furman took the win 28-17. This Saturday, the Bulldogs will travel to Western Carolina to face the Catamounts at 3:30. The mixed rifle team and the women's team fell short to Georgia Southern on Saturday with the final 45-56 to 41-33. Max Brabston led the mixed team with an 11-40 aggregate score, finishing third overall, while Lauren Pringle led the women's team with a 10-87 aggregate score, the ninth best of the day. Women's soccer has concluded their season with a 1-0 loss against number 1 seed Samford on Saturday. Goalkeeper Kelly Brambat ended her collegiate career with her second double-digit save performance of the season, making 10 saves. Women's golf has finished their fall season with the final 16th place at the TERRIER Intercollegiate. Freshman Mackenzie Battle led the Dogs for the second consecutive tournament, finishing tied for 53rd in the field after shooting 18 over par in 2 rounds. Volleyball started their weekend with a 3-2 win over Furman on Friday before dropping straight sets to Wofford on Saturday. They made a comeback beating Savannah State on Tuesday 3-0. They will continue play this weekend at home against Samford on Friday before hosting Chattanooga on Saturday at 2 p.m. And that's all this week for your Bulldog Breakdown. For all things Siddle Athletics, follow Siddle Sports. I'm Danielle Hensley. Go Dogs! Hey Bulldog fans, I'm Danielle Hensley and I'm back this week.
Pizza with Pepsi. Delicious.
Style. Selection. Service. Quality. Value. See what everyone is talking about. Ashley Furniture Home Store.
TD Bank's new intern, Bart, is one of those robots from another bank. We're training him to bank human. Bart, why are you winding the clock back?
The clock stated 11:35 p.m., but they are still working.
The clock is fine. Our live customer service is available all night, and all day for that matter. He's learning.
At TD Bank, we do things differently.
Hello?
Like live customer service.
Hello?
24/7. Don't just bank. Bank human.
We build our communities. We earn our success. We, as South Carolinians, work best together. Don't follow your bank into the impersonal world of mergers. Make a change. Visit South Atlantic Bank to talk with local bankers who care about the Low Country. Our local headquarters will be ready next year on Johnny Dodds Boulevard. Until then, stop by our current location. You'll find a community bank with a proven track record of financial success. South Atlantic Bank. People you know and trust.
This is the Pepsi for serious fans and serious eats. This is the Pepsi for Sundays at the ballpark and days off at your favorite pizza joint. Right, Aaron?
Best slice in New York.
Whatever you're craving, this is the Pepsi for you.
Brent Thompson at the Marina Variety Store and Restaurant on Halloween night. Thank you for those who are joining us in person, on the air, and even online. You can send in your questions using the hashtag AskCoachThompson on Twitter as we talk about the game this past Saturday against Furman, and also get ready for the matchup this upcoming Saturday on the road against Western Carolina for the Bulldogs. And Coach, coming off that loss against Furman, all in all, as we proceed here during the week, I know in that game Saturday, no Johnson, no Drakeford for the second half. I think Lorenzo Ward even came out for a little bit. Overall, how's the health of the team here on this Wednesday?
Well, we've got a couple of guys that are out right now, and the season is about that time of year, and you're always going to have them. Got a couple of nicks and bruises here. There's guys that are going to be in and out of the lineup probably from here on out.
How challenging does it make, if at all, what challenges does it present for the offense when you don't have some of those A-backs like Drakeford and Johnson out there for a game?
Well, it certainly limits what you can do, and you've got to keep it fairly basic there. The A-back position can be very complicated because they're involved in the run game, the blocking game, as well as the passing game. So we've got to make sure that we keep it very simple, and we've got a pretty good understanding of who we've got personnel-wise out there.
I know I sound like a broken record bringing it up every week, but Matt Campbell, again, with an excellent job Saturday with a handful of punts, putting them all inside the 20, some inside the 10, and inside the 5. And at least from what I've seen in the conference, he looks like the best punter in the conference just as a freshman. He had another great day on Saturday.
Yeah, we're going to see one this week. Ian Berryman's a terrific punter, and very similar to Matt. He's got all the kicks. He's got the hang time like Matt does. He can pin it inside the 20 like Matt does. We're just happy that he's a senior, and we've got the freshman right now.
That's right. And on the defensive side, a lot of guys have been playing really well the last couple of weeks. It looks like especially the defensive line and the front seven. But one guy I do want to single out is Willie Eubanks, who leads the team in tackles, and he had another great day on Saturday, it seemed, from up in the booth. A couple of more sacks, handful of tackles in the backfield, and I believe led the team in tackles again Saturday in that game. Yeah,
Willie's a great player. He's a great kid. He does a great job in the core. He's a good academic kid, and really he should be an All-American here by the time he leaves. He's going to be very, very smart. He's going to be able to be in the right spot. He's been playing the position now for 2 years. Got enough work at it last year to where this year I think he's gotten a lot more comfortable, especially as the year has gone on. But terrific player, terrific young man, and I'm excited for him.
The defense as a whole, very young group to begin with. I think you had 7 new starters week 1 compared to last year. As we've gone along now, 7 games in, have they progressed? Have they gotten to the point at this point in the season that you were hoping for at the beginning of the year?
I've seen a lot of improvement out of, there's certain guys on the defensive side that you can watch it. Like you'll see the safeties come up and support a little bit more. You'll see the defensive line, when you're playing Mason Kinsey. Mason Kinsey had a great day, by the way, the other day. Marquise Blunt's playing a lot of time for us up front, and he's being destructive in the backfield as well. Chris Beverly is doing a great job at safety. You could see him come up and fill the alley, almost similar to where Kali used to be, and that's really going to pay dividends for us. All these guys playing is going to pay dividends for us here in the future. We just got to keep on developing them, get them in the weight room, get them conditioned, get them ready to really be a physical presence out there, and I think we got a chance.
Yeah, there's certain guys, in the run game, or whenever there's a play made in the backfield, it seems like Eubanks is always around the football, always around the quarterback. You brought up Chris Beverly. It seemed like every time there was a tackle in the open field or in the pass game, it seemed like he was the one at the football.
That's what I've noticed most about him. He's been able to tackle in the open field, which is huge. I mean, that's one of the hardest things to get done. He did it as a high school player, and he's really done it here for us as well. I was a little bit concerned. He was a little bit hesitant, wasn't taking as many shots early on in the year. I mean, he's been playing against Wofford and all those pretty good run game teams, but he's been filling the alley very well, and I'm excited for him.
Now, looking ahead to the upcoming game, Saturday, the team travels to Western Carolina. You head up into the mountains for the game Saturday, and now to finish out the year, we're in the middle of the stretch, alternating home and road. So back on the road after the game against Furman, against Western Carolina last year. That started the trend of a handful of losses to end the season. Do you feel like it was that game that kind of got you off track in 2017?
Yeah, when I went back and watched it, it was just tough to watch again. We moved the football. We were very effective. I thought we did a good enough job on defense to be able to win that game. But really, we had just some really untimely things happen to us, whether it was the false start on the 1-yard line on 4th down. We had to kick the field goal there. Then we turned the ball over before the half, and then we give them 7 points there. We come back in the second half, drive down the field in about 4 or 5 plays, score a touchdown. Then we give up another touchdown. Then we travel all the way down the field, turn the ball over in the end zone. And we had 2 turnovers in the end zone. We had 3 inside the red zone, including the one on the first drive of the game, which kind of set the tone for the day. So very disruptive on offense. Defensively, I thought we hung in there. They're going to make their plays. They had 2 really good players besides Tyree last year, a running back and a wide receiver that really forced you to cover the field. And, we did all we could do to be able to match up on them. And late in the first half there, we gave up a pretty good, it was a great throw and a great catch into the end zone. It wasn't a whole lot that we could have done about it, but certainly something that we don't want to try to give up. We don't want to give up any easy plays this year.
Was it the turnovers? I know the team overall, you mentioned in the red zone, but overall had 5 turnovers in that game last year. Was that the difference in the game?
That was the difference in the game by far. Moved the ball very, very effectively, and just untimely things happening to you. We put a lot into that game. That was one of those games where, very, very similar to this past weekend's game. Just a few things didn't go your way, and the next thing you know is you've lost a football game. I don't think it did anything for the rest of our season, that's for sure. And that's what I used that example, and I cautioned them going in this week, because I sensed it a little bit, not on Sunday, but more on Tuesday of, like I said, that little malaise that was hanging over the team. And I said, we don't want to go down this road again. We've been down this road. Let's make sure that we prepare, we practice, and we prepare like we want to go up to Western and beat this team and get a win on the road and get ourselves back on in the right direction.
When a team has to deal with turnovers like that, a lot of people believe that turnovers are a lucky statistic. When you look back at that game, or just in general, turnovers, is it a case of something going wrong or just a bad break that sometimes you can't control?
Combination of both. We had both of them last week. One of them was just a center quarterback exchange issue. Wasn't expecting the snap, thought it was called here, wasn't called there. One of those things, wasn't expecting it. Happens from time to time, although you shouldn't have it happen at all. When it comes to interceptions and those things, those are kind of forced, and those are forced things. Whether it's just a bad read or whether it's a good play, those are things that I think you can control those to somewhat, whether you throw the ball away or you make sure that you got your eyes trained in the right spot. When it comes to fumbles, no, that's where sometimes they're like, sometimes you just happen to be exposed, and sometimes they just pop it in the right spot. You do all that you can do to carry the ball high and tight, or make sure that your pitches are on. But there are times I think the fumbles are more luck than anything else.
How does this Western Carolina team compare to that team that you saw last year?
Well, that was a very good football team. Like I said, they had more dynamic weapons on the offensive side. Now they still have TERRIER there, who is capable of putting up, Nintendo kind of stats out there. So I think that's, I think that element is still there. They're still going to be very good on offense. There's no doubt about it. Anytime that you have to spread the field, he's got reads going every which way. He's got RPOs and everything. They get you in just a lot of jams and a lot of binds. However, on the defensive side, they were a much more experienced group last year. But very much like us, they're getting older, and as they get older, more experienced throughout the year.
Yeah, it's a defense that has averaged to allow 40 points per game this year for Western Carolina. The Bulldogs will travel up to North Carolina into the Hills, take on Western Carolina Saturday, 3:30 kickoff with coverage beginning at 1:30 here locally in Charleston. Don't forget, you can participate here tonight. Send in your questions on Twitter using the hashtag AskCoachThompson as we continue to break down the matchup between the Citadel and Western Carolina upcoming this Saturday on the road in the Southern Conference. Here till 8 o'clock, we'll take a break, come back, continue to break things down from the Marina Variety Store and Restaurant. It's the Coach's Show with the head coach Brent Thompson here on ESPN Radio, 94.7 FM and 910 AM.
I reckon I've been hanging around a while. Now I don't move like I used to, but I still get the job done. So what if I fall down now and then? I get right back up again sooner or later.
What is your garage door saying? A brand new garage door from Overhead Door could be the upgrade your home is asking for. The genuine, the original Overhead Door. Just look for the red ribbon logo.
The corners of a city street, a table in a cafe seat. I got it, I don't miss a beat, oh no. Walking down the avenue, be it gray or be it blue, Live 5 News everywhere I go. Yo, everywhere, got you everywhere, everywhere I go. Whoa, 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 everywhere I go.
Pizza with Pepsi. Delicious.
Mark Lee became the first Navy SEAL killed in Iraq, sacrificing his life for our freedoms and his SEAL teammates. America's Mighty Warriors was born out of Mark's challenge to pass on the kindness, the love, the precious gift of human life. We honor our troops and Gold Star families by providing programs that assist recovery after injury or loss. Partner with us by making a generous donation. Text MARK to 234-231-9284. America's Mighty Warriors, supporting our troops and the families of the fallen.
This is the Pepsi for serious fans and serious eats. This is the Pepsi for Sundays at the ballpark and days off at your favorite pizza joint. Right, Aaron?
Best slice in New York.
Whatever you're craving, this is the Pepsi for you.
We had long deployments in Iraq. Really grateful that USA was able to take care of my family while I was overseas serving.
It was my very first car accident. We were hit from behind. I called USAA, and the first thing they asked was, "Are you okay?" They always thank you for your service, which is nice because as a spouse, you serve too.
We're the Hells, and we're USAA members for life.
See how much you could save with USAA by bundling your auto and home insurance. Get a quote today.
Pizza with Pepsi. Delicious.
Sorry, Dad.
Sure, you could get him a new car. You could also light a pile of money on fire. Because as long as Mr. "It wasn't my fault" takes the wheel on occasion, maintaining this car is your best option. So keep it running longer, stronger, with quality parts and a whole lot of Napa know-how.
Dad, where are you going?
These are the moments that move you. Roper St. Francis Orthopedics is South Carolina's leader when it comes to letting you stay in play. Our top-rated program has over 30 specialists across the Lowcountry who are ready to treat all of your moving parts. Call 727-DOCS to keep on moving.
This is the Pepsi Pepsi for serious fans and serious eats. This is the Pepsi for Sundays at the ballpark and days off at your favorite pizza joint. Right, Aaron?
Best slice in New York.
Whatever you're craving, this is the Pepsi for you.
On the Coaches Show here with the head coach Brent Thompson, talking Citadel football from the Marina Variety Store restaurant located at 17 Lockwood Drive here in downtown Charleston. Thank you for those who came out and joined us here tonight on Halloween. You can find us here every Wednesday 7 to 8 during the football season, talking Citadel football. And even when we're not here, make sure you come and check out the Marina Variety Store restaurant. Great views, great food, especially seafood, and located right down the road from the Citadel, where the Bulldogs this week will hit the road and get ready to take on Western Carolina in another conference game in the SoCon, and looking for win number 3 here in 2018. Coach, going up against Western Carolina, you know, they've had an interesting season. They started the year, I believe, with 3 straight wins, and since then now I think it's 5 straight losses for them. In reviewing the tape, getting ready for this game, what have you noticed from them that has gone wrong for Western Carolina, the difference in how they started in September and now how they've played so far in October?
Well, you know, I think the schedule makes a big difference. Just as us is, it's you play a difficult schedule, it can be very challenging, especially early on. And I think with them, their schedule started off fairly light. They had Division II Newberry, and then they had Gardner-Webb. So there was a couple of easier ones to kind of get them warmed up. And then they played some pretty good competition going into the Southern Conference, and they played teams like Sanford. That was a good football team that they played right there, and they've played some pretty good, you know, Southern Conference opponents leading up into it. They got a win over VMI, but you know, VMI played them extremely close, and as we know, is VMI is a good football team right now, and I think they're doing a much better job, even though their record is not very good.
And they're coming off a loss. Western Carolina is against East Tennessee, ETSU on the road. I think it was 46-45 in triple overtime. They're a high-scoring game, and that seems to be somewhat of the norm for West Carolina this year. A lot of high scores.
You know, it wasn't even that high-scoring of a game. It was like 30-15 for the longest time, and then of course the triple overtime, when you put the ball on the 25-yard line, it can escalate pretty quickly on you. I thought they did a good job on defense, just being able to limit them. They had them to about 14 points, somewhere around 14-15 points going into the third or fourth quarter, late in the third, early fourth quarter, and then ETSU kind of put the metal down a little bit more, and they were able to score a couple points to be able to tie the game up.
You mentioned in your press conference, and we've talked about it before, that the style of football that you look for at the Citadel, when you look at Western Carolina, they have had some of those shootout type of games this year, and I imagine, once again, that's something you'll look to try to avoid, getting in a shootout.
Yeah, you don't want to get in a shootout with these guys. It's not going to help us out. Is really, we want to keep the defense off the field. We want to be able to continue to get first downs. Do what we do. Don't get out of our game plan. Try to get them out of their game plan by making sure that we maintain possession of the ball, limit their possessions. I happened to watch after the VMI game. I watched the Mercer Western Carolina game, and that was a shootout. That was back and forth. And as I was watching it, I was thinking, and I had a lot of Mercer's a good football team, and it was going back and forth, whether it was a kick return for a touchdown or an onside kick that went their way. There was just a lot of strange things that happened in that game that you don't want to kind of get involved in. You want to play it pretty straight up, pretty straightforward, and just see if you can run the football.
We talk a lot about familiarity between teams, and of course teams in the conference, you guys get to know each other pretty well and what you like to do on the field, but just looking at the coaching staff, they have a coach on the defensive side of the football that used to be here on the defensive side of things.
Yep, Coach Weaver was with us for our first 2 years here, went with Coach Houston too. James Madison spent 2 years there with him, and then originally from Asheville. He and his wife are both from Asheville, so they decided to move back to Western Carolina, and he took over the pass game coordinating on the defensive side for them.
And so the Bulldogs going up against going up against Western Carolina this Saturday on the road, back on the road, but just going off of strictly record, the team has performed better on the road this year.
Yeah, we have, and we view the road as no different than being at home for us. Is we've got to be able. We kind of take this similar approach and similar schedule where we do some certain things at certain times of the day, no matter whether it's a Friday at home or whether it's a Friday on the road.
And it's their homecoming as well. So we talked about the VMI game going into a bit of a hostile environment, and for a lot of guys, they enjoy that. I imagine Saturday at Western Carolina will be no different. Homecoming weekend, obviously a conference game. I'm sure it'll be a good environment for them for their home game.
Yeah, it's a good environment up there. they've got a great band, and a lot of people come out for the band, and it being homecoming, it certainly will be a pretty good crowd there. It's supposed to be a fairly nice day, a little bit on the cool side, but I think it'll be a nice day up there, and we're looking forward to it. It's always a nice trip. Get a little bit cooler air up there.
Other than rain and wind, we just dealt with some wind the other day, but do you look at the weather in terms of temperature at all? Does that make any sort of difference in how you play or call a game?
Not so much temperature, but we do check to see if it's going to rain on Saturday. And if there's a chance of rain on Saturday, we've got a couple things that we would traditionally do is watch our exchanges. We want to make sure that we probably limit our exchanges in the rain, but also what we will do, especially later on there when you get cold rain, is we will soak our balls in some cold ice water to make sure that we get our snaps and we get our hands cold. We kind of dip our hands in the water too to make sure that we're used to operating, because we traditionally don't get too much cold, rainy weather down here unless it's in the spring.
Right. Yeah. Last I saw, they're supposed to get rain the next couple of days, but as you said, Saturday should be nice and around 40 in the 40 degrees area, I believe, for the game Saturday. 3:30 kick there at Western Carolina up in the mountains. Have you been able to pinpoint any reason why the team hasn't found that win at home yet, or has it just been a coincidence in the way the games have gone?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know. I joked about it, in the press conference a little bit. I haven't really thought too much about it. But, yeah, we really haven't won a whole lot in the last 2 years at home. Part of it is just being out of sync at home, not having enough home games. We haven't had back-to-back home games this year, which is always a little bit disturbing, and it's tough at times. So sometimes it's just a little bit foreign being at home. You're not used to it. And, we certainly lug it, and just from a travel standpoint. But we've come accustomed to really just traveling on the road quite a bit. Yeah, I'm back on the road, of course, Saturday for Western Carolina. Will the team, you guys be heading out Friday for the game? We will. We'll head out Friday afternoon. Get ready for the kickoff, 3:30 on Saturday afternoon against Western Carolina. Talked about the weather. What about the game time? Does a 3:30 kick make any sort of difference compared to a 12 o'clock or a 7 o'clock? 2 and 3 o'clock are about the same for us, and that's traditionally what we get this time of year. Anything earlier than that can be a little bit disruptive to your schedule because you don't have as much. Traditionally, we do get a meeting and a walkthrough in the morning prior to the game, more so just to get up, get your mind thinking about it a little bit, more so to just kind of shake it out a little bit. Don't sleep in too late. But when it comes to an 11 or 12 o'clock game, which we've had some of those, is now you got to get up and just go. Your pregame meal is always 4 hours before game time, so that sets you all the way back to about 7 or 8 o'clock. You can't get a whole lot more done before that. So when the earlier kicks, but the mid-afternoon kicks, they don't bother us too much. Talking to a few fans, they said that this is their favorite road trip of the year to go to Western Carolina. Now, as a coach, I don't know if you get to enjoy some of the things that others would on a road trip, but do you have any sort of preference in terms of going to stadiums or towns or even just the travel in this conference? No, not particularly. Of course, we like the closer game, the Greenville, the Spartanburg. Those are a little bit easier on you. The Mercer's not a bad trip for us. It's a 4.5-hour trip. It's not too bad of a trip for us. This is not a bad trip either. It's a 4.5-hour trip. The only thing that's a little bit different about this is we stay about 45-50 minutes outside, which is not ideal for us. We stay at this this golf club resort kind of a place, which is an interesting setup. It's not really conducive to travel football teams there, but we make it work, and it's a nice little setup there for us. But other than that, the Greenville trip may be my favorite trip, going up the Furman or going up the Wofford. We stay in Greenville for both of them. Fairly close, easy to get back from. Nice hotel. Looking at Western Carolina on the football field, their quarterback is also their leading rusher. He runs a lot. So what sort of challenges does that bring up for a defense where the run game comes mostly from the quarterback position? It's very challenging, and as you saw from Flacco, maybe not as many design runs for Flacco as there is for Tyree. Tyree's got he's pulling guys and he's reading guys and he's RPOing and those kind of things, and then on top of that he can scramble. And what he does have, he's got a sense of confidence back there that no matter what it is, he's going to be able to make a play with his feet, whether it's extend a play and throw the football, or whether it's just to be able to make you miss and get down the field. And that's the scary part. Is he catches you in man-to-man coverage, and you could easily, watch him rip off 30 yards. You mentioned Flacco. We saw him with Thompson run all over the field. Even though it is different, does that help the team get ready for what you'll see Saturday? Yes and no. It's a little bit different, and you've got to approach them a little bit differently because there are two different styles of offense. But certainly being able to learn from it and being able to make sure that we continue to have somebody responsible for the quarterback will help.
For what Western Carolina does offensively, you just touched on a lot of different things that they do in that offense to try to keep you off balance. But what is the toughest thing for a defense to have to deal with all the different stuff that they'll throw at you?
Well, when you spread the field so much and all the different formations from no backs to one back there, and then you got all the motions that add on into it. Whether it's a read sweep kind of a play or whether it's an RPO kind of a play, is there's certain things that are going to stretch you vertically and they're going to stretch you horizontally, and he can make all those reads, he can make all those throws. That's where it's challenging for you.
You mentioned different formations. I've been told before that it's harder to defend a team that runs fewer plays out of more formations as opposed to a team that ran a lot of different plays but out of pretty much the same formation.
Yeah, I think that's probably pretty true. We've even adopted a lot of that ourselves as we've kind of gone to more or less plays and more formations. We used to be pretty much strictly one formation, and probably we would carry it sometimes 10 to 12 different plays into every single game. Now we're probably carrying between 7 and 8 and probably more like 3 or 4 different formations, and we change those formations up every game.
Looking at the statistics, they seem, at least statistically, pretty balanced in throwing the football and running the football.
And that's where it could be a little bit misleading because probably a lot of those are designed throws that he scrambles on.
And when they do throw it, especially in the red zone, their tight end, I believe, has 8 touchdown passes.
He's good. He's right up there with, I thought the tight end from ETSU was a good player as well. But you don't find too many of those style of tight ends in the league anymore.
And I should say 8 touchdown receptions, of course, for the tight end, 8 touchdown passes for his quarterback in the red zone to the tight end. Looking at the numbers, they start slow in the first quarter as well. So as we talk every week, I imagine, to get off to a quick start, of course, no different this week. I'm sure that's something you're looking for.
Yeah, I think our quick start, and I was looking at our first quarter stats the other day, we've gotten better in that from the first 2 or 3 weeks where we struggled. I think we've gotten a little bit more aggressive in that department. We've taken more shots down the field. We've opened up with more passing game in the first quarter, and that was designed to help that out a little bit. But we really do need to maintain possession and control of the football early on. And, forcing them to drive the field is probably not as big of a deal as it was with Furman, but we still do need to play some field position with them.
For the offense that they run, they like to run the football, but as we've discussed, a lot of it comes from the quarterback and scrambling on pass plays. Does it make a difference for that offense if they fall behind early and have to play from behind, similar to what we've seen from offenses that like to run the football?
I think they're dangerous when they're from behind, and we've seen them from behind on a couple of occasions. I think they can be extremely dangerous, and they take more chances down the field. They catch you playing more conservative as well when you do have the lead. So we got to stay more aggressive throughout the game on both sides of the ball.
Well, we're talking with the head coach, Brent Thompson of the Citadel Bulldogs, to get ready for the game Saturday with Western Carolina on the road. 3:30 kick Saturday with all the coverage here locally beginning at 1:30 on our sister stations, 102.1 FM, 92.1 FM, and 1450. Still one more segment to go here on this Halloween night. When we come back, we'll continue to talk about the game Saturday and get ready for a kickoff here in a couple days up in the mountains. We'll also take any questions that you have next segment. You still have time to tweet them in using hashtag AskCoach Thompson. We'll get to that as well when we come back. It's the Coach's Show with Brent Thompson here from the Marina Variety Store Restaurant on ESPN Radio, 94.7 FM and 910 AM.
The great thing about an old truck is you can treat it like an old truck, which is exactly why you got a truck in the first place. It's not old, it's broken in. So keep it running longer, stronger, with quality parts and a whole lot of Napa know-how. That's not gonna buff out.
TD Bank's new intern, Bart, is one of those robots from another bank. We're training him to bank human.
Bart, why are you winding the clock back?
The clock stated 11:35 p.m., but they are still working.
The clock is fine. Our live customer service is available all night, and all day for that matter. He's learning.
At TD Bank, we do things differently.
Hello?
Like live customer service.
Hello?
24/7. Don't just bank. Bank human.
Pizza with Pepsi. Delicious.
Style. Selection. Service. Quality. Value. See what everyone is talking about. Ashley Furniture Home Store.
This is the Pepsi for serious fans and serious eats. This is the Pepsi for Sundays at the ballpark and days off at your favorite pizza joint. Right, Aaron?
Best slice in New York.
Whatever you're craving, this is the Pepsi for you.
Buying a home is a big financial decision, so you need a strong team working on your mortgage. That team is at South Atlantic Bank. Decisions are made right here in our community by mortgage professionals who really know the Low Country. South Atlantic Bank offers competitive rates and terms on loans for home purchase or refinance. If you need a mortgage loan, you need the mortgage loan professionals at South Atlantic Bank. South Atlantic Bank Mortgage Group, providing the keys to home ownership.
We're married, and as professional golfers, we're very competitive.
But only on the golf course. 72 seconds. How long can you hold your breath?
No competing at home.
Booyah! That's our rule.
Pure Silk and Barbasol. Proud supporters of professional golf and friendly competition everywhere.
Loser takes out the trash.
Try new Pure Silk and Barbasol razors. Available now nationwide.
Pizza with Pepsi. Delicious.
Style. Selection. Service. Quality. Value. See what everyone is talking about. Ashley Furniture Home Store.
TD Bank's new intern, Bart, is one of those robots from another bank. We're training him to bank human.
Bart, why are you winding the clock back?
The clock stated 11:35 p.m., but they are still working.
The clock is fine. Our live customer service is available all night, and all day for that matter. He's learning.
At TD Bank, we do things differently.
Hello?
Like live customer service.
Hello.
24/7. Don't just bank. Bank human.
We build our communities.
Coach Brent Thompson here from the Marina Variety Store Restaurant at 17 Lockwood Drive here on Halloween night. Happy Halloween to everybody. Hope you're staying safe out there as you trick or treat and listen to us here wrap up the Coaches Show tonight from the Marina Variety Store Restaurant. Make sure you come and join us in person every Wednesday here 7 to 8 throughout the football season, and come check out the Marina Variety Store Restaurant even when we're not here to get yourself a nice meal. You can join the conversation here in the final segment by sending in your questions using hashtag #AskCoachThompson, and we'll get some of those on the air. There was a question for you, Coach, about the offense, because, of course, it's an option offense, but how much of the offense is, in fact, an option? How many plays have that option as opposed to just being played out how they're designed?
Sure. We've got, it depends on what kind of option you're talking about. We've got the lesser used outside veer. We've got probably our predominant play, which is inside veer, which we didn't have a whole lot. We probably had about 7 or 8 last week. And then we have a midline triple, which is another triple option play. So we've got 3 different triple option plays, and then we've got about 5 or 6 different double option plays. And then we've got 2 or 3, whether it's speed option or counter trap option plays, which are double option plays, but they are what we call trap options, where the guard does pull on them and we try to gain an extra head at the point of attack. So all in all, we probably have in our whole scheme about 18 different option plays that we use. And like I said, we probably only carry about 8 or 9 into the game. But what people don't understand is it's hard to pick up and it's hard to see is when are you really running just triple option, when you run and dive. And a lot of times those plays can get blended together, and they're used at different points. So if you're running the dive portion of it and you are running the veer, you're making them execute, making them tackle the dive, so that way you can get the ball executed to the perimeter, whether it's the quarterback or it's the pitch man next. And then if they are running out, right, if the linebackers are running out, the dive is executed as more of a linebacker control play. Hey, they're getting guys out of the box, let's pump the ball back down and inside there. Sometimes the dive is used when they're moving around a lot, and you want to just kind of settle them down, make them defend something. And sometimes you're trying to fool their own defenses, making, hey, that was veer, when really it was just a dive play. So it's interesting to hear when people say, why don't you run more veer? And I look at them, I say, well, we called it 18 times last week. What you see is probably about 10 or 12 of them that went to the fullback. You don't see it executed to the perimeter, because it doesn't always get to the perimeter. It depends on really what they want to do as a defense. Do we try to find ways to get to the perimeter? Yeah, that's why we have double options. That's why we have counter and trap options. We want to try to get the ball to the perimeter. You've noticed doing this a little bit more of zone option this year. We ran a lot of zone option last week against Furman. It kind of fit better with what the scheme was. And then, of course, we've got all the play actions that go off of it.
That's an excellent explanation. Are all those decisions made through the course of the play by the quarterback?
Yeah, for the most part, we let him execute just about everything, and we let him make a lot of the calls on the line of scrimmage. We give him a couple things to look at, get us in and out of the right plays. As we tell our quarterbacks, it's not so much really the play that you run; it's trying to find the better play or the best play. So we give them a couple of different options, and sometimes there's a safe option built in, and sometimes there's a more risky option built in.
Time for some hard-hitting questions here on Halloween. What is your favorite candy?
My favorite candy would be a Snickers bar.
Snickers. All right, that's a good one. Growing up, what was your favorite costume that you dressed up for on Halloween?
I was the Tin Man one year, and my mom had made it out of giant tomato cans, and it was a well-thought-out idea up until the point where I had to move. I couldn't bend my knees. I was about 5 or 6 years old, but I think I had a funnel on top of my head for just like the Tin Man did, and I was covered in tin foil, but unfortunately my legs were made out of soup cans or tomato cans right there, so that was quite interesting. They had to carry me from house to house.
That's excellent. I like that one, Tin Man. People don't even consider Halloween as a holiday. For me, I would rank it right behind Christmas as my favorite holiday. Where does Halloween rank for you?
Behind Thanksgiving for me.
Okay.
As I've gotten older, Thanksgiving has become that much more important for me. One of those days where you can just eat, watch football, and go to sleep. Christmas, Christmas is not a huge day for me, other than the fact that Christmas falls on a bad time. It's a really heavy recruiting time for us. You'd rather just kind of move on and get through recruiting with it. So I never really enjoyed my Christmases in the last 20, 21 years or so. I think that was more for my first probably 10 or 12 years.
And lastly, are you into scary movies at all?
I love them. I really just got done watching The Haunting of Hill House. Just finished it up last night.
Wow.
Terrific Netflix series, and I really enjoyed it. But yeah, my brother and I used to stay up and watch them all the time. I've kind of phased them out a little bit, but because the more ridiculous they've gotten, the less I watch them. But I can remember watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre with my brother, and just some really, really bad horror movies. I was a big Friday the 13th fan and Halloween fan, up until the point where they just made too many of them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm a huge horror movie fan myself. I've been watching the Halloweens all week. So since that was your answer, let me follow up. What's your favorite horror movie all time?
I would say probably the original Friday the 13th was my favorite. There's no doubt about it. The original Halloween was right up there. Nightmare on Elm Street probably a little bit further down my list.
I agree.
A little bit too made up for me. I like the guys that are somewhat alive until the point they get killed 100 times, which my man Jason Voorhees get killed too many times at the end of it. But it was a interesting growing up and watching all those. And the Texas Chainsaw Massacre one was kind of freaked me out a little bit too.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. Yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street was always too fake for me, but the Halloweens and the Friday the 13th are some of my favorite movies. I still watch them all day, every Halloween, and I'll do that when I get home tonight. Hey, looking forward to the game this Saturday as we get back to football, taking on Western Carolina on the road. What are some keys to the game to get out of there with a victory Saturday?
Well, as I told the defense and I told yesterday, is we got to keep them in front of us. We got to tackle them up, make them drive the football, make them execute the offense. Don't give them any easy ones. And I say that just about every week, and every week we find a way to just kind of give up that one or two things that we just can't do. We miss that tackle, and there's nobody left out there. So we've got to do a much better job of tackling up in open space, keeping them all in front of us. Trying to get some turnovers. not creating any turnovers last week, which I did count on a couple of turnovers last week, just with an inexperienced redshirt freshman quarterback. I thought there naturally would be some if we applied some pressure, and we did get some pressure on him, but to his credit, he didn't turn the ball over to us. So if we can get a turnover here and there, get a short field for us, I think that would be key for us on the defensive side. Special teams side, to continue to be aggressive, and everything that we do is just trying to, help our cause as best we can on the special teams, which I think we've done a good job of that. And then on the offensive side is just, continue to get first downs, is stay on track, get first downs, and then, be patient with it, have a good understanding of where you're at in the game.
Well, when you look at this matchup against Western Carolina, where are some areas that when you stack up your team against their team, maybe there are, what areas can you take advantage of against them?
Well, I think they're pretty good. They're good in the kicking game. They're sound in the defensive game. But we've got to find ways to be able to move the football and be able to run the ball on them on the defensive side. So I think we can. I think there are some opportunities for us to be able to run the ball on them. And then on the defensive side is, you got to be careful because they've got it all built in, whether it's a read play, whether it's an RPO play, or whether it's a screen play. So if you blitz them too much or you sit back too much, you're going to get exploited. So we've got to maintain that balance of being able to get after them just enough, back off a little bit, keep them in front of us.
RPO, that has become such a popular term in football, such a buzzword of late. Is that a new concept to football, or is it something that people are just starting to notice?
I think it's a highly taken advantage of rule that was very literal enforced, and it's gotten worse. We've tried to dial it in a little bit more. It's a great concept, right? I mean, I play defensive back in the secondary, and you're reading head man on line of scrimmage, and there he is. He's down the field. You support, right? It's a very, very simple concept, right? Well, not so much anymore, right? Now, offensive linemen, you should just be able to go 1 yard down the field and kind of give him a little bit of leeway. Now you're going 3, 4. Sometimes he's right next to the umpire. They won't call it unless he's right next to the umpire. You're 5 yards down the field and that ball's being thrown. I mean, that's very challenging for a defense. It's very challenging for the secondary to look at. It's not really the way the game was meant to be played. And unfortunately, that's kind of the way that it's gone. And until you call it, until you truly enforce it, they're not going to anymore. There's too many offenses out there doing it. Too many of these pass-happy teams that have gone out there and they love to do this kind of stuff. They're going to take advantage of the rules. I mean, let's face it, Luke, when was the last time that there was a rule made to help out the run blockers of the world, right? Yeah. I'm going to tell you when it was, is when they allowed the offensive linemen to use their hands, right? When did that occur? Back in the 70s, right? Let's face it, is everything since then, they've taken away your cut blocks, right? They've taken away your ability to run the football. And now here you go. You throw the football all around. Let's spread it all around. Let's make everybody else happy out there. That's what it's come down to. Unfortunately, the game was designed to be a run, kind of a downhill kind of game. Now you spread it all out, and you've got these run-pass option teams out there all over the place. You're not going to get those rule changes anymore, so you've got to live with what you do and keep fighting to sustain what you've got in the run-blocking game. But as far as everything on the perimeter, it's tough to block now without holding. Everything gets called holding anymore. You can't block them high because you're going to hold all the time. You can't block them low because you're too far down the field. I just saw Georgia Tech against Virginia Tech and get called for 3 yards down the field. I mean, shoot. What's next? You're not going to be able to block anybody. Let them all have a good shot at the run game, and let's make sure that we just get in each other's way out there.
Yeah, and as Coach McCombs told me, Western Carolina was the first team that brought the spread offense to the Southern Conference back in the 70s. Everyone else was still sticking to the ground and pound. Well, Coach, appreciate your time tonight. Enjoy the rest of your Halloween. We'll talk to you and see you Saturday and hope for a win.
Thanks, Luke. Look forward to it. Sorry I took up all your time on my soapbox, but that's the way I feel.
Hey, no, I love it. That's head coach Brent Thompson here for the Coaches Show from the Marina Variety Store and Restaurant. Don't forget, kickoff Saturday, 3:30. Coverage begins at 1:30 on 102.1 FM, 92.1 FM, and 1450. Go Dogs! Go Dogs!